Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare.
So we're reading today from Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
From Canto 1, Chapter 12, Text 20. We're going to read the verses 20 through 30. And we'll come back and read the first part, text 27. This child will be a munificent donor of charity and protector of the surrender, like the famous King of the Ushinara country. And he will expand the name and fame of his family like Bharata, son of Maharaj Ganta.
Amongst great bowmen, this child will be as good as Arjuna. He will be as irresistible as fire and as insurpassable as the ocean.
This child will be as strong as a lion and as worthy a shelter as the Himalayan mountains. He will be forbearing like the earth and as tolerant as his parents.
This child will be like his grandfather Yudhisthira, or Brahma, in the equanimity of mind. He will be beneficent, like the lord of the Kailasha hill, Shiva, and he will be the resort of everyone, like the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan, who is even the shelter of the goddess of fortune.
This child will be almost as good as Lord Shri Krishna by following in his footsteps. In magnanimity, he will become as great as King Vanditeva. And in religion, he will be like Maharaj Yacha.
This child will be like Bali Maharaj in patience, a staunch devotee of Lord Krishna like Prahlad Maharaj, the performer of many Ashvam Neha for sacrifices, and a follower of the old and experienced men.
This child will be the father of kings who will be like sages. For world peace and for the sake of religion, he will be the chastiser of the upstarts and the quarrelsome.
After hearing about his death, which will be caused by the bite of a snake bird sent by the son of a Brahmin, he will get himself freed from all material attachment and surrender unto the personality of Godhead, taking shelter of her.
After inquiring about prophets of knowledge of son of Ashur, who will be a great class of now solitary things like praise.
Thus, those who are expert in astrological knowledge and performance of the birth ceremony, instructed King Yudhisthira about the future history of this child. Then, being sumptuously enumerated, they all returned to their respective homes.
So, his son would become famous in the world as Pariksit, examiner, because he would come to examine all human beings in his search after that personality whom he saw before his birth. Thus, he would come to constantly contemplate.
Akshakaratmano Rityum
Nityam,
Bija Pushka Prasarkitat Patyakta Upashutya Sangha Padam Hare
Bhuta Sangha Brahmane
Akshakaratmano Rityum
Takshakar Amalaryam
Bija Pushka Prasarkitat
Bija Putra
Patyakta Upashutya
Sita
Sangha Padam Hare
Bhuta Sangha Param
Takshakaratmano Rityam,
Takshakar Amalaryam
Putra Pasarjitat,
Bija Putra Prasarjitat
Rapatsyata Upashrutya,
Ashutya
Tasanga Padam Hare,
Bhuta Sangha
Padam Hare,
Takshakaratmano Mrityum
Takshakaratmano Mrityam
Ija Putro Pasarjitat
Bija Putra Prasarjitat
Patsyata Upashrutya
Prapasyata Ashutya
Mukta Sangha Param Hare
Bhuta Sangha Param Hare
Takshakaratmano Mrityum
Takshakaratmano Mrityam Bija Putra Prasarjitat Prapasyata Upashutya Bhuta Sangha Padam Hare
Sakshadat Atmano Mrityum
Takshakaratmano Mrityam
Bija Putro Pasarajita
Bija Putra Prasarjitat
Prapasyata Upasrutya
Prapasyata Upashutya
Sangha Param Hare
Bhuta Sangha Param
Hare.
Sacred, Atma, first self, Mritya, death, Bija, son of Brahma, Upasarjita, being sent by, Prapasyate, having taken shelter, Upasrutya, after hearing, Mukta Sangha, freed from all attachment, Padam, position, Hare, Lord.
Translation. After hearing about his death, which will be caused by the bite of a snake bird sent by a son of a Brahmin, he will get himself free from all material attachment and surrender unto the personality of God, taking shelter of him. Would you like to read the purport?
Material attachment and taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord go ill together
Material attachment, ignorance of transcendental happiness under the shelter of the Lord, devotional service to the Lord, while existing in the material world, is a way to practice one's transcendental relation with the Lord. And when it is matured, one gets completely free from all material attachment and becomes competent to go back home, back to Godhead. Maharaj Pariksit, being especially attached to the Lord from the beginning of his body in the womb of his mother, was continuously under the shelter of the Lord, and the so-called warning of his death within 7 days from the date of the curse by the Brahmana's son was a boon to him to enable him to prepare himself to go back home, back to Godhead. Since he was always protected by the Lord, he could have avoided the effects of such a curse by the grace of the Lord. But he did not take such an undue advantage for nothing. Rather, he made the best use of a bad bargain.
For 7 days continuously, hear Srimad Bhagavatam from the right source, and nothing but shelter and the lotus feet of the Lord by that opportunity.
So this section is quite nice. Verses talking about, you could say, in one way, it's the horoscope versus explaining what he's going to do. He's going to be great like this, great like that. But you look in the purports, it's a long purports section. Those different kings mentioned, Yati and Shivi, if you read, they were all very pious, glorious persons, mostly because of how they treated other people. An honorable king is more concerned with the welfare of his citizens than the well-being. And there's some very extreme examples of that. So that's why they're glorified. So he's restriction described. Of course, this is before he came, and it's notable here that he hasn't come yet. This is the sages telling you just all the qualities this person's going to have. And at that time, it's even described, you'll be hearing about his death when the person did. So it wasn't an accident. You read it, it sounds a little bit like it was done in anger. He was traveling, he became tired, he draped the snake over the sage who was meditating, and the son heard about this and saw it and cursed it. So it sounds like it was an act of anger. Sometimes in anger we do things. We don't think about it ahead of time. Just do it and later regret it. But this was actually destined. Predestined. Pariksit was put in that condition of hunger and thirst, so-called, so that curse would come. And it actually was known a long time before. There's a nice event that happened, I think it was Manasarota, Cuba, residing. The queens of Gorkha, they were trying to understand how Krishna, they were giving Krishna everything they could, and they could tell his heart was somewhere else. His heart was really, no matter what they did, they understand why is it. So they were asking him about this. So let me recite, I'll speak the Bhagavatam to you, then you'll understand this thing better. And so Pariksit was there, and he got excited. And then Uddhava turned to Pariksit, he was the king then, he was full of vigor. He said, no, you can't listen. I need you to go out and keep Kali at bay, keep Kali away, so that we can speak this Bhagavatam in peace and not be disturbed. So I need you to protect us. And King Pariksit was heartbroken, he was devastated. It's like he came so close to hearing the Bhagavatam, and now he's told he has to go do some service. And so Devaprastha said, don't worry. In the future, the Bhagavatam will be spoken, and your name will be famous. Your name will be linked to the Bhagavatam. You'll get to hear it firsthand. So don't worry, you're not going to lose anything in this exchange. You'll forever be glorified. heard the Bhagavatam. So this was, let's say, predestined long ago. And why was King, of course, every living entity is here, Krishna, but why was Pariksit from here? It touched on that in the later verses that, of course, he was the grandson of Arjuna, Abhimanyu, and Tara. And there's so much drama with the battle. If you read the Mahabharata, understand the whole history, this whole long dramatic thing goes on. It culminates in this battle in which the Bhagavad Gita was spoken. And then after that's done, think, okay, now finally we can have some rest. But no, then Ashwatthama went, created more havoc, killed Lysan, Draupadi, and released this atomic weapon. And it came to burn, kill Pariksit, still in the womb, his mother. And Krishna entered into the womb, protected it. So from his very birth, it was described King Pariksit protected the Lord. And it's interesting because King Pariksit saw him, well, before he was king, he was still in the womb. He saw this living entity and didn't fully know what was going on, but he had remembered that. It is described, I think, in text 29 or 30, how his whole life he kept looking. Is this the person who I saw? Is that the person who I saw? So his whole, that's why he was called the examiner. So he's always having this consciousness of where is Krishna? Where is that person who saved him? So his mind was always fixed on where is the Lord. So he was, could say literally from the beginning of his life, he was very dear to Krishna. And therefore he protected him and had these great qualities. But this auspiciousness, this could say destiny. Sometimes we hear about horoscopes and astrology, and while astrology is a science, there are elements that affect our life. Planets, gravity affects our life. So many different forces, but it's not superior to the Supreme Lord. So it's described that in Janmashtami, Krishna appeared. Look at the planetary arrangements; they are very auspicious. It's described how they understood Krishna is going to appear, so we should arrange ourselves in an auspicious way. So it's not the planets control Krishna; they arrange themselves according to his will. So in the same way, of course, if we're not Krishna, we can't expect the planets to arrange themselves nicely for us. But auspiciousness, in a material sense, you could say it's karma. Astrology is largely about karma. What is one destined or karmically based on the time of day and the place of birth? The planets are arranged in certain ways. So you're going to have certain physician or scholar or strong or thin or you may just have different propensities. Of course, we understand that reality comes from spiritual energy, not material. So that means a living entity with those propensities takes birth at that time when those things are conducive to these desires. But these aren't absolute. Auspiciousness can be created simply, as in the case of Lord Krishna, by thinking of the Lord. The Bhagavatam describes intelligence as one who understands the Supreme Lord is a person. If you understand that, you're considered intelligent. If you don't understand that, you think there is no God or God's some great force be with you or white light or whatever you may think, then it doesn't matter how many PhDs you have on your business card, your intelligence is flawed. As Prabhupada would say, their brain substance is filled with cover. And he describes these people who say there's no God. Because if you examine it, it's quite clear to anyone with rational intelligence to see there has to be a God. There's no question. Look and see the evidence, the way, just look at the DNA structure of the planets. We have to have a certain percent of oxygen, the temperature has to be just right. All these conditions have to be just right to live. Otherwise, we can't exist. And this all happened by accident. I think we used the example before of an iPhone. Right? You throw a bomb in a room full of metals and lithium, and different ingredients, and you come out with an iPhone. It just arranges itself that way. And it's ludicrous. And iPhone, obviously, you look at it, it's one of the most sophisticated devices that we know of, and there are others. But clearly, somebody designed this. And if you ever take one apart and see, wow, somebody put a lot of thought into all these. So in the same way, the universe, the planetary, the gravity, the orbits, all these things are very finely arranged, not by accident. So if you examine it, you can see clearly there's some force, some person, some intelligence behind this. But this idea of auspiciousness, it's very important because sometimes people think, well, I'm just destined. I have a certain character. I'm just destined to be a certain way. I had an astrologer in my chart. He said I'm going to be like this, be like that. And we think that we're just robots. Of course, it doesn't. Like, but it's not the case. We have free will. In fact, free will is our magic secret weapon. So our superpower is that free will. If we misuse it, we become entangled, like anything, which is how we end up in the material world. If we use it properly, is the Pariksit to think about Krishna, look for Krishna. What is this all about? What am I supposed to be? Who am I? And we understand we're all very unique. We all have a very unique relationship. In fact, they're just like there's no two snowflakes just alike. There are no two living entities alike. Each have a very unique relationship with the Lord. We can give him pleasure no one else. He has qualities that just one quality that we can appreciate that no one else can even see or appreciate. So there's a very personal relationship with the Lord. And when we think of that, when we fix those concepts in our consciousness, that creates auspiciousness. I can give kind of a simple, I won't say it wasn't a mundane example, a simple example that I experienced in my life when I was a very young devotee. I got attached to this song by George Harrison, My Sweet Lord, of the Mama Mantra. I learned enough to understand the Mama Mantra special. It's much special. So I was chanting, and I'd heard Krishna's name or one, same thing. They didn't understand that, but I just took it to mean that when I hear this sound, if I'm chanting, that's one thing, I'm trying to engage in spiritual life. But when I hear it coming from outside, something I didn't do, somebody be driving by a car playing My Sweet Lord, I developed this idea in my head, oh, this is Krishna, he's coming to me, he's encouraging me. So I didn't turn that way around, someone else did. So, oh, Krishna's manifesting in my life. So this is my mindset for the time. Still is. And so one day I realized I kind of woke up, I was living by myself, I was a bachelor, I didn't have the cleanest lifestyle habits. And I looked around my room and I thought, this is disgusting. This is not a fit place for Krishna to me to chant here. So I cleaned everything up nicely, cleaned the walls, I fixed everything. Just did my best. I'm not the cleanest person in the world. Much better at keeping it nice. But I did my best job. I gave it all the effort I had to make everything really nice. And I was feeling, okay, well, at least now it's livable. And now it's not a comfortable place to be. And then on the radio, the same song came, My Sweet Lord. And I thought, oh, Krishna likes this. He's happy. So I had read, Prabhupada said, godliness is cleanliness is godliness. But I was raised where they say, just a step away from the country. That cleanliness is close to godliness. Prabhupada said, no, cleanliness is godliness. So I understood, oh, Krishna likes cleanliness. So I came in, and then he came on the radio. And then that same day I was walking down the road, and there's a row of apartments, and the windows of the apartments, you could hear the radio playing, and I heard My Sweet Lord playing. I would walk by and I was all happy. And then when that one got out of reach, another apartment, then now that song he was playing. And some of them, I don't know if it was on the radio, they were playing tapes, but I heard it at several houses. They were song, and I was overwhelmed. Wow, Krishna's happy. It's letting you know it's happening. So I learned from that experience that we create auspiciousness simply by engaging in spiritual activity, by doing things that please Krishna, by thinking of Krishna, we invoke or create auspiciousness. The atmosphere becomes purified, the atmosphere becomes auspicious. I think I mentioned last time about the story of the event with Srila Prabhupada and the devotees from Leonard's estate, food conch, to clear out the ghost. There was a gardener or something. So in the same way, it's the same point. The conch shell, the chanting of the holy name, it creates auspiciousness. Of course, it creates much more than that. Auspiciousness is just a side effect. There's I want to say humorous story, although it wasn't so humorous for the person who suffered for it. But there was an event where Hardas Thakur, who we understand is the Namacharya of the holy name, he was born a Muslim, and he wasn't from a pious Hindu family. He didn't have any credentials or degrees or political learning. But he was well known as being very, very pure. And there was an event, and then the topmost person, who at that point was the Bhattacharya, they brought him the offering because he turned and offered it to Hardas Thakur. Everyone couldn't understand. We're trying to honor you because you're the highest person here, most respectable person, and he's giving it to Hardas Thakur, this full-born Muslim person who doesn't even understand the name. And so Dwyer was showing them, no, he's chanting the holy name. He's more pure than any of us. And so there was some discussion. I get foggy on the details, and I tend to mix up these events with Hardas Thakur sometimes. But there was something was said to the effect that I think Hardas Thakur said something to the effect that basically chanting the holy name. The benefit of chanting the holy name is not that you're purified. The benefit of chanting the holy name is that you get love of God. The purification is just a side effect. You become purified, but you don't really care. That's not really the fruit. That's not really the result of chanting. The result of chanting is a lot of love for God. And there was this smart Brahmana, educated, and he took offense to that statement. He said, no, you can't look, the Vedas say this, Vedas say that. Chant, you get liberated, you get all these things. And Hardas Thakur said, no, those things are not, they're inconsequential. They come along as a side effect. That's not. And so, this Brahma, person, if that's true, I'll cut off your nose. That can't be true. So something like that. Hardas Thakur said, he said, if that's not true, I'll cut off my own. So then 3 days later, this Brahmana got leprosy and his nose fell off. And so the point is that when we chant the holy name, what to speak of auspiciousness? Auspiciousness is kind of like liberation or piety or good karma. Those things, yeah, they might come, but we don't care. Devotees don't care. Good karma, bad karma, irrelevant. Enjoyment, suffering, in the material sense is irrelevant because neither one of them frees you from material energy. Chanting the holy name or auspiciousness, real auspiciousness, is to develop that love for God, some emotion, some feeling. The Lord, just like Pariksit, he was attached to the Lord. And so he's looking everywhere. Is this that person? Is that person? So that attachment of the heart, it's a vehicle or the mechanism that's Bhakti Yoga, the heart of Bhakti Yoga. That's very, very powerful. When we engage attachment, emotion, or affection, some type of whatever degree of love or emotional draw we can develop for the Lord, that's the quickest, most powerful way to make advances. And so automatically auspiciousness, liberation, detachment, material energies, all these things just come. And so, we could go on for hours in that whole realm, but the point I was trying to draw out is that we can create auspiciousness in our life we can control future life, excuse me, our so-called destiny, as they say, who we meet, opportunities we have, the things that go on in our future, that can all be arranged or controlled. In fact, it is arranged and controlled by who we associate and what we think about. And so when we engage in spiritual life, then this is okay. I can give you another example. It's a little bit more dramatic than my personal life. It's very powerful and it's kind of shaped me into who I am. That the actions we take based on the values, somebody who once told me when I was about your age, that for every person or group of people who rejects you for any specific reason, there'll be another person or people that will accept you for that same reason. And they told me this when I was like, I don't know, I was smoking cigarettes and doing bad things, and I was trying to think how I can, well, if I stop doing all these activities, these people won't like me anymore. Our relationship is based on it. So when you told me that, it gave me strength, and I quit some of these bad habits, stopped smoking, changed my lifestyle. And sure enough, those people that are so-called friends, they weren't interested. They didn't invite me. They were like, "This guy's weird." But then other people who didn't smoke or drink and had healthy habits, they said, "Hey, why don't you come?" And so my whole reality shifted. So, a little bit later, I had a turning point. I had working at the Home Depot. Good job, well paid, got association, started to get into not so good habits. And I realized I have to give up this job because although materially it's making me very comfortable, it's putting me in contact with people who are not strong enough to deal with this. It's going. So I quit the job. I'll hear some do some spiritual. I was going to the clubs beginning. I had little understanding of right and wrong and behavior. So I quit my job, and right after I quit my job, I got my last paycheck for Prabhu. So now I had a choice. I have just enough money to fix my car or pay my rent, but not enough money to do both. So here, I'll walk you through my thought process. If I fix my car, then I can go to the temple. The temple is about an hour away. I would go on Sundays. I fix my car, I can go to the temple, and I can drive around, find another job. I won't have any place to live. That'll be a little inconvenient. If I pay my rent, then I'll have a place to live, I'll be comfortable. I can still call around, find a job, but I won't be able to go to the temple for at least a month or two. I'll have to get the parking, have a place to live, charge. So it'll be a few months before I'll be able to go to the temple. So what do? I don't really want to be homeless, but I can't imagine not going to the temple once a week, 2 months. So I fixed my car. So sure enough, I had no place to live, and then a car, a friend's house, couch, a teacher's house, and just went couch surfing. I met a devotee and gave me a place to live. And then within 2 or 3 months of that time, I ended up living around the Finland. The one could stay with me, and I had a job and a place to live. And I realized that Krishna said, okay, you made a choice based on a certain value. You made a choice because you want spiritual association, you're going to do X. And if X causes you some difficulty, you're doing it because you want association. So if you want association here, I'll keep spiritual. So there was some material different, temporary. But the point is that auspiciousness, the destiny, the point I was trying to link to was we can change our destiny, we can change our future, and we do change it every day by the choices we make. We choose to do this with this person, that takes us in a certain direction, that binds us to material modes in a certain. We do Y with this other person, and then that takes us in that direction. And so I made a choice that said, no, the most important thing to me is I have to be able to, even if it's just once a week, I need to be able to associate with devotees and remember what reality He said, okay, that's what you want, you got 21st day. And the material difficulty became irrelevant. I was like, yeah, material difficulty anyway. And that's an important lesson for me. And it was interesting because not long after that, I heard a class by Vajrayana Maharaj, the president of San Diego, and he told a story about a bhakta who was living in the temple, brahmachari, and his service was to unload the truck when it brought the boat to the temple. So he had to go to the truck and get these heavy pounds of potatoes and carrots and things, 1,500-pound bags, take them off the truck, take them to the kitchen. And he got tired of doing this. This is too much hard work. He left. So, I may have told this story before. Forgive me if I did, but I like it. So some months later, Biden Ryan was out doing his service in another part of town, or something, hour away from the place, and he saw this. Oh, how are you doing? Yeah, okay. Oh, so you got a job now? Okay, well, what you got? Well, I had little bags of concrete truck. His karma was to do manual labor. At that point in his life, that was what was destined for him to do. So you can do it for Krishna or you can do it for someone else, but you're going to do it. So the point is material difficulties. Sometimes we go through it, and the thinking in the mind is that, well, I'm trying to do surrender to Krishna, I'm trying to do all these things, and it's all these difficulties. So let me go over here and do something else, and I won't have the difficulties. It's like complete illusion. You're going to have the difficulties. We're all going to struggle. The difference is when you're struggling for Krishna, then you're getting spiritual satisfaction, and your future is becoming permanently ingrained or permanently, say, mandated, or your future is guaranteed that you're going to be much, much happier because you're struggling for spiritual life. If you just struggle for material things, it's just all for nothing. Right. So yes, so auspiciousness we can create, just like with Monroe's friction and that was his consciousness attached to the Lord. And as a result, he developed so many good qualities and is glorified to this day. I think I'll stop there. See if anyone has any questions or comments. Yes.
Thank you for such a wonderful class. One thing that really struck me quite deeply when you were speaking about Maharaj Pariksit and how he was the examiner and how Krishna saved him in the womb, so he spent the rest of his life looking, oh, is this the one who saved me? Is this the one who saved me? And so he was always very deeply Krishna conscious, and he was always very deeply grateful for what Krishna had done for him. And it just, when you were speaking about that, it really came to my heart that, well, Prabhupada saved all of us. You know, Prabhupada saved all of us, and that we can go through our life like, you know, where is Prabhupada? Where is Prabhupada? Where is Krishna? How would Prabhupada like us to serve if he was here? I mean, he is here in his Murti form, and Krishna is here, but just that consciousness of like gratitude and that consciousness of you know, longing actually, the lobham, like the longing of when will I meet Prabhupada? When will I meet Krishna?
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's true. It's literally Prabhupada did say that. During that time I mentioned, my car broke down all the difficulties. I was listening to the tape. Literally, Prabhupada. During that time, I had a tape I played over and over. The sound of his voice just go into the heart and literally drag me to the temple. It's like what you get through. I was staying up all night anyway. All that nonsense. So the 3 o'clock, what we went to. But it was Prabhupada's voice, Prabhupada's presence through his tapes that I could feel him dragging me. That's why I got so attached. So that's a really good point. Prabhupada did say, and he's still saying this to this day, these books. Yeah, that's
Yeah, I'm old enough to where my sweet Lord used to still come on the radio. It's on the old radio station. I have this like vivid memory with it. Um, I worked at an auto body shop when I was like 19, and I was in the manager's office, and he was a real goof up dude. I got work with him times after that at other shops too, and he always just messes up and gets fired. He's like this golfer. He looked like Rodney, Dangerfield, like a young Rodney. And we were in the office, and I'm trying to talk to him about my paycheck. And the song, he had the radio on his desk, and it's like been going on with the My Sweet Lord, and they're at the end where they're doing their like call and response, like um, and Guru Vishnu, like all that stuff. And I just watched him like and felt him get really uncomfortable, and he just like turned it off. And I was like, dude, it just kind of showed me the power of that, that how it can affect different people, like different level of consciousness that they're at. And then also later on in my life, I won't go into it, but I feel like that there's another song called Lord Give Me a Sign that helped lead me back, to Krishna in very auspicious ways over the radio, over, my friend's radio, like all at the same time. And I'm like, man, something's happening, something's really happening. This is undeniable that I feel like I'm getting some signal. So my question is like, how come sometimes in your life you feel like maybe you're getting communication from the higher realm, higher entities? Obviously, it's all towards leading you back to Krishna, and then sometimes it's just like the radio signal is just silent.
a great question. It has to do with electronics. For current to flow, if you go to a power circuit, there's two wires coming out. You grab one of them, nothing will happen. Grab both of them, you're gonna get shot. Or if you're grounded and you grab one, if you're standing on a rubber mat, you can grab a high voltage wire and grab it. Nothing will happen until you grab the other wire. Now, when you grab the other wire or something else metal or grounding, then the current flow, and then you get shocked. They kill you if it's a high level. But without that both polarity, negative and positive, the current won't flow. So the key is to try as best we can to be receptive. Sometimes we're not so receptive. Krishna has no problem. He's living in our heart. He can make it crystal clear what we need to do to please him. But if we're not interested in doing it, or we're not even listening, why should he bother taking the time to tell us? It's just a waste of time. Just like you go to try to talk to somebody and they're on their phone doing something else, like not interested in this conversation, they'll stop talking. I had a boss once, and I was trying to explain things, sitting there in my office, just doing his phone, and I stopped talking. I was like, oh, I'm trying to give him an update, why are you telling me all these things? Well, I'm trying to tell you. So yeah, when receptivity, the more we can cultivate that receptivity, then the Christian's eager. He's in the heart. He's waiting. He wants to guide us, whether it's in the heart or whether it's from outside. And so, to the degree that we're receptive and looking, eagerly looking, also sometimes, and this is described in the Bhagavatam, that sometimes he will withdraw or make himself invisible or not have that conversation with us to increase the intensity of our hearing. That they'll to cultivate that mood. I understand, I'm in this desert, I'm drowning with thirst, dying of thirst. Where are you? And it becomes very, very intense. And then he'll always reciprocate, but sometimes he wants to increase our intensity of our focuses. So it's different causes. Sometimes we're just in a different place, and we're like, even if we heard it, wouldn't respond. So those are two reasons that I'm okay.
Yeah, Prabhupada says that, talking about electronics, Prabhupada says that Mahamantra comes directly from the spiritual world. In the purports, in the first volume of the Chaitanya Sarita, like radio signals control, maybe something sounds strange. Maybe at some point we have a transmission of the spiritual world or something. It makes me think these new devices they have, they really don't know why they work. Instead, they just know they work. They have no idea why they work. I like kind of speculate maybe Brahma Jyoti's involved or something. Yeah, they're so amazing, but they have no idea.
Yeah, I've heard, and I've yet to have anyone tell me it's not true, that they don't understand what they know how to, whoever, all the electrical gadgets we have, they know how to manipulate electricity. They really don't understand what it is. This pushes this and this happens. Then there's the Akashic records and these things that people come up with these inventions. It's a songwriter or Elon Musk creating rockets or whatever. Did they come up with these ideas? Those ideas aren't theirs. They're there in the ether, and they're just allowed to see it. Rishis can see these verses, and then they write books, and we say, "Oh, this great person wrote this book." No, that information is there. They were just given due to whatever reason, whether they were pious or they just had karma, they were able to perceive it. That Mozart, so many people, they'll tell you, great, prolific, first poets or writers, musicians, they'll tell you, I don't know where it comes from. Prabhupada did that. He would read his books. But what you read the whole books he wrote. He said, I didn't write these books. I'm reading these books Krishna wrote. I'm reading what Krishna wrote. Yeah, thank you for that. Yes,
If we can, you said earlier that with our decisions we can kind of rewrite our destiny, and that astrology is largely about karma and getting us the bodies sort of due to our karma. And if bhakti can really rewrite karma and decisions can change destiny, why should we care about astrology at all?
Because we don't need to. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was one of the greatest astrologers of his time, and he used to get a little frustrated because the other persons, there's a saying that those of you who know everything are annoying, those of us who do. So there were a lot of astrologers who thought they were the greatest astrologers, and he used to point out the flaws in their thinking and why they said this wasn't true. So he definitely expert astrology, studied for some time, and then he gave it up. He said, this is a waste of time, and then he got deeper into writing and reading. He was a walking encyclopedia of the Vedas. And so that's a good lesson for us, that he knows astrology as well or better than anyone. And he got to the point where he said, this was not worth my time. Let me just absorb myself in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Let me understand the science of this. So ultimately, we can do it for fun. Devotees have done it. I've done it. Sometimes Prabhupada used the example that if it's raining outside, it's good to know it's raining. You can take an umbrella. Because you're not going to change the fact that it's raining. So sometimes knowing astrologically what you're going to deal with can help you know, okay, I'm going to get wet, or I'll take an umbrella, or I can do such and such to offset these effects. But they're going to be there, and ultimately they don't matter. The thing to understand is there's nothing, astrology included, there's nothing material, and astrology is a material science, it's not a spiritual science. Planets and gravity and effect of Mars and Saturn, all these things, that's all material. So there's nothing material that can affect your spiritual life in a negative way. Can't happen. The spiritual energy is higher. The spiritual energy comes from spiritual energy. So no matter what your chart says and what bad karma you have and what ill effects are out there, none of that can impede or in any way. It may look like, in my case, I could have still engaged in spiritual life, not going to the temple. I could have chanted, listened to tapes and read and Krishna consciousness. I wasn't that strong, so I chose to say, well, let me do something more conducive for those. But yeah, astrology can't really help us or hurt us. Really. In karma, it's interesting that it's got the same K vibration as Krishna. Karma is for non, karma is for materialists. But basically karma is a teacher. You do this, you're going to suffer. No, don't do that. Do this, yes, a reward. That's a good thing to do. Get some reward. No, that's a bad thing to do. You'll suffer. So it teaches the consciousness. Don't do this. Do this. Once someone surrenders their life to Krishna, karma's out the window. Now Krishna's in charge. And if we have something to learn, Krishna will teach. It's described as he'll minimize our karma, but he'll prescribe personally. No, you need this experience that will help you in this way. You need that experience. He takes over. It's not karma. Now it's not. Karma is a law, nature, like a pendulum or gravity. It just happens. It's not. Doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, black, white, young, old, male, female. Karma is going to affect your case. It's a law. It's not a personal thing. Krishna is a person. So then once you surrender to him, he says, okay, you need to learn this, to learn that. And he administers what we need to learn, but it's not mechanical. And it supersedes. He says in Bhagavad Gita, Dharma, surrender unto me, I will deliver you from all sinful action. He's telling you right there. Surrender to me, no more karma. Gone, I'll take care of that. Go along with this. Answer the question. Any questions?
For the Thakur, it said that material attachment and surrender to Krishna go together. But there was also another statement that said, by devotional service, we eventually let go of the material attachments. I was thinking, like, when I'm struggling with some material attachment and I'm trying to let go, sometimes I get a little frustrated, like, why is it still there? Is that something that just, like, we can't put effort into it? It just naturally comes because it says it's like byproduct of devotional service, so there's nothing to do, and just be patient? Or is there something that do to like let go of that attachment?
So if I understand your question, why we're engaging in devotional service, the attachment is still there. You know, how can we understand why it's not going away?
Yes, and also like, is there something that we can do externally to let go of that attachment, or is that something that we just have to deal with and be patient with?
So there's two things. Depending on what the attachment is, we can try to dovetail it. So, like, I can give an example from my life. I've always had a propensity to buy things. Look, a pain thing, disease I had. I was trying to think, oh, if I had that, if I had that. So then when I started reading Prabhupada's books, learned about Yukta Vairagya and dovetailing, I said, okay, well, I want to buy something, I want to get something, I'll buy a picture, buy some incense, I'll buy some music with it. So I'm fulfilling that propensity to spend money and obtain something. But the thing I'm obtaining can help me remember. Or maybe do purchase things. Sometimes my spiritual master asks me to buy things for him. I need something. I take great pleasure. Oh, I'll find the best price. So we can dovetail those attachments if we can, if they're things that are dovetailable. That's one answer, and that helps to purify the desire to will eventually. Now I don't care so much. And have something or not. I don't have the same yearning. The other thing is patience. Patience and enthusiasm. My patience is Krishna, I need patience, and I need it now. That's my concept. But when we have patience, we understand. There's a beautiful verse. I don't have it memorized. It's in the 11th canto, chapter 20, 20 and 27. And it basically says that if someone is trying to worship me, trying to engage in worship service, if out of a bad habit or just past momentum or material attachment, they do something that they know they shouldn't be doing. He said they should be happy. You believe that. You're supposed to be on this platform, and you do something that takes you off of it. You should be happy. Why should we be happy? I don't know if someone has a phone who can look it up. 11, 20, 27. Because you understand the truth. You understand the reality. And so therefore, eventually that will become your reality. And so this temporary thing is this, Krishna doesn't take it very seriously. Krishna doesn't measure you based on where you are. He measures you based on where you want to be. Says, oh, you want to be my devotee, you want to be all these attachments. So that's how I'm going to see you. I'm going to see you as feel all these attachments. And we just have to have the patience. So can you read? I don't know if you have it on your phone. You can see it up here. You can read this verse. Yeah.
Having awakened faith in the narrations of my births, being disgusted with all material activities, knowing that all sense gratification leads to misery, but still being unable to renounce all sense enjoyment, my devotee should remain happy and worship me with great faith and conviction. Even though he sometimes engaged in sense enjoyment, my devotee knows that all sense gratification leads to a miserable result, and he sincerely repents such activity.
So I don't know if that helps. But it's like be patient. When we read this, then we can be patient. Okay, this thing that's overcoming me right now, it'll eventually go away. I can just tolerate it. Be patient. And know the process works. And one day you'll look down and you'll see somebody offer you something, or you have a situation in the past with them. Yes, that was it. You'll look and you'll say, not so much. So it'll come. But yeah, it takes patience. Patience and enthusiasm. But verses like this, for me, helps me to be patient. Okay, I'm experiencing this thing that it's talking about. Go ahead. Be happy. Prabhupada says, especially for Westerners, spiritual life is like watching coal. Clean it and it's still cold. We discover some more, it's still cold. It's like have some, but the process is working. I think that they probably should stop now because looks like we're not supposed to. I'm not supposed to talk.
Practice the syrup outside.
Jai Mahaprasade Govinde Nama Brahmani Vaishnave Sava Bhuryatra Raja Vishva Samay Vajayate. Fortunate persons to faith in Mahaprasade. Okay. We can start from the top. Fortunate persons develop faith in Mahaprasad, the spiritual preference of the Lord, the deity of Sri Govinda, the supreme personality of God, the transcendental Krishna.